ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. Six sense object. Say, six sense object. Form, sound, smell, taste, touch, mental object. Yvonne, what is the third sense object?
Smell.
Smell.
Nose. Yeah.
Nose is the sense base.
Okay. Sense object. Smell.
Object of the base. Smell. Okay, sit down.
Smell. Thank you.
Xiuling. Xiuling, fifth sense object.
Fifth, body.
Body is a sense base. What is the object for the sense base?
Touch.
Okay, sit down. Joe, what is the sixth sense object?
Mental object.
Okay, sit down. Pei Shan, what is the second aggregate? Pei Shan?
Yeah, we are second aggregate body, then got feelings. Is it?
Yeah, feelings. The first one is form.
Form.
Sit down. Lei Ling, turn on your webcam. Yes. Fourth aggregate.
Mental formations.
Good. Sit down. Sherry, turn on the webcam. Doreen, go. Turn on the webcam. Doreen, go. Turn on the mic. If you are eating, don't turn off the webcam to eat.
Sorry.
Just eat. It's okay. Answer the question. Second sense object.
Object.
Yes.
Sound.
Okay, sit down.
Thank you.
Sherry, are you there? Calling once. Dong dong. Sherry, are you okay? What is the fourth sense object? You need to turn on your mic.
Sound.
Okay, good. Sit down.
Okay.
If you are not sitting down already.
Sorry.
Okay, sit down, sit down. All right, again, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Right. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters.
Good afternoon, Shifu.
Okay, so I hope all of you are now alert. So what we have gone through is what we have gone through in the past weeks. 5 aggregates and 12 bases. Yeah. If you look at the screen now, I'm going to share my page. So we went through the 5 aggregates previously. Over here, the 5 aggregates on the left, and then we zoom into the 6 sense base and 6 sense object over here. Eye, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. What? Oh, yeah. So the previous week we went through the 5 aggregates. Yeah, form, feelings, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. And then the 6 sense base, 6 sense object. We zoom in to look at it. Eye, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental object. Yeah. So these two sets, they are actually describing the same thing. Yeah. The first set has 4 components to describe the mind. Only one component to describe physicality. The second component has 12 altogether. You have the first 10, 5, describing physicality, and the last 2 describing mentality. So they are actually describing the same thing. Yeah. In fact, we also went through the 18 elements. which is another 6. And the 6 different consciousness are actually listed out over here, and I mentioned that I will not write down in detail, yeah, but it's basically corresponding to this eye, ears, nose, tongue, and so on. Okay, and then I did an experiment with you all, remember, yeah, to illustrate how consciousness has different functions. One being bare awareness, the other one being discrimination. And discrimination is only for the mind. Only the mind can do discrimination. The mind can do many things, among which one of the key things is to discriminate. But to discriminate, it must be able to label. Yeah, so it is also said to label. Label means to give words, to give names to what is being presented. Yeah. In the more technical term, they call it ideation. That means forming of ideas about things. Yeah. In the more layman, we call it perception. In Chinese, it's translated as 想. So the mind itself has all these functions. Yeah. But the mind itself, when arising in terms of the first 5 senses, is slightly subtler, raw. No? Slightly subtler and raw as well. So their function depends on the sense base. And so the different consciousness that arise is named after the sense base. In Chinese, we say 以根得名. Yeah? So dependent on the sense base, then the name is derived. So dependent on the eye, the consciousness that arises is called eye consciousness. Dependent on ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind, then the consciousness is correspondingly named after its sense base, such as ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness. Yeah, all of us, we have the full 6 sense bases. Yeah, there may be some in this world where they are born with one of the senses incapacitated. Yeah, or like a good number of us, we have eyes, but our eyes go yeah. So if it's just the eyes, like now, if I take out my specs, even the screen itself, I see a blur image. Yeah, I cannot tell who is who. I cannot read the words. Even what I'm writing here, because I write very huge font size, so I can still see. Yeah, but over here, I cannot see the features clearly. Yeah, so although it has eye, even the awareness can be affected. So last week we went through some examples to illustrate how the eye giving rise to eye consciousness cannot read, cannot distinguish to a high level. Yeah, it is only aware of some, physical form. Yeah, the presence of physical form in terms of its color, so to speak. Yeah, beyond which it cannot discern, it cannot discriminate. Yeah, it cannot tell. Eye consciousness itself cannot tell that there's man or woman present. It cannot tell whether it's old or young. It can only tell colors. It's the mind that further discriminates. Interestingly, over the years, I've seen various scientific documentaries that is conducted, and it actually parallels what is being taught in Buddhism. For example, one experiment, the scientists, what they do is that they actually show a colored image, yeah, and they flash it for a very short period of time. When it's sufficiently short, but not too short, people can detect that there is something, but they cannot tell what is it. And if they increase the duration to a certain point, they can see the image, but they cannot tell what the image is. And from scientific experimentation, they know that the initial perception is just black and white. Then the color comes in, and then you can detect more and more and more. Yeah. So this is present-day experimentation. Yeah. But all this teaching were actually taught way back 1,000, 2,000 years ago. In the Buddha's time, he outlined the 5 aggregates, the 6 sense base, the 6 sense object, and the 6 sense consciousness. And collectively, this described the known universe. In one of the sutta, known as the Sabba Sutta, the all. And then the Buddha described, someone asked him, the all, what is the all? And then the Buddha replied, beyond the eye, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental object, there's, if you try to establish further the all, that is impossible. In other words, this encompasses everything. Yeah. In one of the commentary by Master Ying Shun, it's a pity because Master Ying Shun passed away some years back. Yeah. I only have the privilege to meet him in person on the day I was ordained, but I was late. Not my undoing. Somehow there was some mishap in the routing. So my teacher and the group of senior monks, they went off first. Then the senior monk who was supposed to bring me and my parents, we come somehow. Then by the time we reached there, they already chit-chat finished. When I went up, I just quickly go up. Oh, 顶礼长老. Then he, 就是你 something like 就是你出家. And长老要休息. Venerable must rest. So that I didn't get to talk to him or anything. But I heard amazing things about this master. Yeah. It is said that he, not it is said, it is basically known that he spent 3 to 4 years when he was in China. He spent 3 to 4 years in what is known as the Zhangjing Lou or Zhangjing Ge. And that's basically in the traditional Chinese monastery. They would have specific buildings for specific purposes, and one of them is to house the Tripitaka. So this master, he spent about 3 to 4 years in one of them and read through all the sutras, all the teachings. Yeah, basically the whole Tripitaka, Chinese Tripitaka, he read through everything. Now, if you think 3 to 4 years are not so bad, but you go and try. Because Heart Sutra is the shortest. Yeah. Now, reading is one thing. To just read one time, I would say, even if I give you 10 years, most people probably still cannot finish. Yeah, because it means that he is very consistent. Every day, without fail, he just read. But he didn't just read. He read and then he actually remembered. So it is said that when he was, in the earlier days, when he was teaching in Taiwan, in the Fuyan, students would go and consult him and ask him certain questions, and his reply would be, the answer to your question is in the Chinese Tripitaka, this volume, this section, this page, the second half, bottom column, from this paragraph to that paragraph. The answer is there. You go and read. Yeah, and apparently it's not just 1 or 2 cases. Yeah, so very inspiring. Now, so such a master, he wrote a whole volume of commentary called the Miao Yun Ji. And among which of his writing, there's one which is Wo Fa Gai Lun. Yeah, so that's like in a way, kind of like a summary treatise, or summary commentary on the Buddha Dhamma. And within that, then he outlined the relationship between the 5 aggregates, the 12 bases, and the 18 elements. Yeah, I have to give you his background because anyone can write anything, but he's someone who has good command and mastery of the whole teachings. And then from what he has gone through of the agamas, the classical teachings, he wrote, when the Buddha teach different individuals, then he presents the teachings to suit their inclination and affinity. To those who are more attached to the mind, he would describe using the 5 aggregates. To those who are more attached to physicality, the Buddha would describe using the 12 bases. To those who are attached to both, then the Buddha would use the 18 elements. Yeah. So it's very interesting, because if you look at the 3 categories, they are basically talking about the same thing. Yeah. But the difference being the emphasis. Yeah. The first set, as I mentioned, 1 for physical form, 4 for mental constructs. Then the second set, the top five, so collectively 10 on physicality, and only mind and mental object on mental constructs. Then 18 elements is basically the 12 plus 6 consciousness. So 6 plus 2, 8. 8 and 10, yeah, to describe everything. So in the previous week, we touched on, we are still on the first sentence, yeah, 照见无蕴皆空, yeah, to illuminate, to observe, to penetrate into how the 5 aggregates are empty in nature. So what we did last week, including what we have just done, is basically to go through the 5 aggregates itself. The first is physical form, internal, external. The second is feelings, and I went through the 3 kinds of feelings. What are they? Pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. Yeah, or in Chinese, it's slightly reversed. 苦受,乐受,不苦不乐受. The 3 kinds of feelings. Yeah, remember? So, as I mentioned before, the Buddha in different teachings also elaborated it up to 108 types of feelings. So, but for the purpose of this workshop, we'll just focus on these 3 main types. Yeah. For with these 3 main types, it often lead to certain reaction from us. When it's pleasant sensation, yeah, or pleasant feelings, then what happens? We tend to delight in it. Agree or not? If it's pleasant, do you delight in it? Say yes. Yes, of course. Like when Sifu asks your questions, is it pleasant? No, Sifu, it's unpleasant. Yeah. So when it's pleasant, yeah, when you answer and Sifu says, oh, very good, well done. Yeah, is it pleasant or not? Pleasant. So you hope that the next time Sifu will ask you again. Yeah. But if Sifu asks you a question and suddenly your mind blank out, then next time you hope Sifu don't ask you. Or maybe you just say, okay, I think I myself just not come here. Why do I subject myself to this kind of mental suffering? I thought attending this class is supposed to help me reduce suffering. In the end, when I come for class, I have more suffering, more stress. My work is not so stressful. My boss don't come and question me about fundamentals also. This monk come and ask me, what is the first aggregate? Try to make me look stupid. Do you all think so? Do you all feel that way? I see nobody answer. So you all really feel that way. Only some of you know. The rest, Sifu, what do you think? So, a few things about these 5 aggregates, 12 bases, and 18 elements. Is this a natural way of us looking at ourselves? The simple answer is no. Yeah, this is not a natural way that we look at ourselves, isn't it? Is this a natural way that we look at others? The answer is also no. Yeah, when you look at your friends and you want to comment on, let's say their hair, maybe they have a new hairstyle, maybe they wear new dress or new whatever. Do you say, oh, look at the set of physical form. Oh, how wonderful. Do you say that? When you all go for karaoke and then your friends sing very nicely, only you, or whatever, then do you say, oh, listen to the sound that is coming from this person's mouth and the vocal cord. Nobody speak in this way, right? Yeah. So when we learn the teachings, sometimes the sutra may seem a bit disconnected from us. Yeah. And without further explanation, we may not even know that it's actually talking about us. Yeah. But here I want to highlight this. The disconnect is not something that the Buddha intend to be. Yeah. It's not that the Buddha don't know how to describe it the way we are. But it's just that people at different time refer to themselves very differently. So what the Buddha did was describe the fundamental building blocks that is true throughout all times. It's just like we learn in chemistry, right? I mentioned previously H2O, right? Correct or not? Water is H2O, right? My chemistry not so good, huh? Correct or not? H2O, right? So when you drink water, do you think, oh, this H2O is wonderful? Or do you just think the water is nice? Or when you drink coffee or tea or Pepsi Cola or whatever, do you say the coffee or the H2O? Which one do you say? You just say coffee, right? Yeah. So when the Buddha gave teachings, he goes straight into the fundamental constructs. Or fundamental constructs. And that's perhaps why sometimes when you attend Dharma talks, you either, when the speaker goes straight into the fundamental constructs, like 5 aggregates, it may feel like it fly over our head, or the speaker, yeah, in order for people to appreciate it, they may avoid these so-called technical Buddhist terms. Yeah, and then they say, in our life, yeah, our mind and body, yeah, we are so attached to it, but they wouldn't use form, feelings, perception, mental formation, and consciousness, right? Yeah, so we may have a better appreciation. But as a result, we may not be so keenly aware of the fundamental constructs that is present. Yeah, because if you say mind is a huge block, you know. Yeah. So when you go down to the specific, then you may start to find that, it's a bit gray. So when we look at the sutra, such as the Heart Sutra, keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. Yeah. While we go through the sutra in terms of the fundamental constructs, yeah, keep in mind how these collectively actually describe our existence. So far so good? Okay. So we went through form, and then we kind of jumped to consciousness. And in order to go through consciousness, we went through the 6 sense space and 6 sense object. So from consciousness, then we highlighted that we highlighted what? We highlighted that 6 sense base, 6 sense object give rise to consciousness. Together is named contact. With contact as a basis, then feelings arise. Yeah, we went through that previously, if you can recall. And then I mentioned how contact itself is the basis for perception to arise as well. It's the basis for mental formations to arise as well. So it's not a linear process, and in between, they can serve as the mental object for the mind. So it's a very messy, intertwined process. But when the Buddha lists it out, he merely lists it out in terms of the collection. The term aggregate, the 5 skanda or 5 khandas, the term khanda itself or yun actually means a heap of things. Yeah, a heap of things. So you can imagine if you have a heap of sand, yeah, is it one sand? Sand is not countable. Yeah, so we just say a heap of sand, right? So when the Buddha used the term khanda or skanda in Mandarin yun, in English we usually translate as aggregate, yeah, to denote that it is not one thing. When we say form, it's not one form, just one thing that this is the form, but an aggregation of many different forms coming together, then we say this is form. Yeah. When we say feelings, it's not one feeling, then this is it. It is a collection, an aggregation of all the different kinds of feelings that can potentially arise. Yeah. And this is what happens in our mind. And we draw a boundary and say, okay, there is this aggregation. Yeah. That within the mental construct, they all have similarities in terms of whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant or unpleasant. All this collection form feelings. Then the third one is perception. Perception, as I mentioned earlier, is a process of labeling, the process of giving words to concepts, giving words to what you experience. Yeah, and then from there, further discriminating and then giving more words. Discriminate, give more words to describe it, describe it, describe it. Yeah. The trouble with this process is after we describe it, we think what we have described is real. Real in terms of what? That is tangible. Yeah. We hold it to be true, and then we get stuck with this idea. Yeah. So in various schools of Buddhism, a lot of the teaching is about cutting through this assumption that words have substance. Can you understand? Words have substance. That is not true. We're trying to cut through this. Words have no substance. Yeah, words have no substance. If words have substance, then when you are thirsty, just say water. Say, all of you say water. Water. Do you feel quenched? And when you hear the word water, do you feel wet in your ear? Sifu, stop saying water. My ear is getting blocked. Or when it's cold, you just say fire. Fire. Then you're warm. Yeah. Then next time you don't have to install aircon. You just think aircon. Then and you just say 18 degrees. Become 18 degrees. Can or not? Cannot. Yeah. Words have no substance. Yeah. But words have agreed upon meaning. So words is a descriptor and it points to something that it describes. In Chinese, 能权跟所权, yeah, that which can describe and that which is described. Yeah, and while words have no substance, it can be used to describe things. But the problem with us is, as we use it, yeah, in our mind, whether it's in our mind through perception, we attach words to things. This is called the process of labeling, yeah, or perception, ideation. Whether you say it out or not, this is happening. And as we do it over time, we start to think that the words and the meaning is one thing. And we become attached as well that the meaning must be this word. But the two are never one thing. The words and the meaning or substance are all the while different things. But through the agreed upon convention, then we link them together. So far, so good? So, one question I often ask people is, did I ask you all this last week? Do you all see Shifu here? I think I asked before, right? Can you all see Shifu? Can or not? Yeah. So do you all think you all saw Shifu? Do you all think you are seeing Shifu? Is this the real Shifu? Not real. Real or not real? Real or not? So we say that when you look up and you see a Shifu, some of you just see a monk. Yeah. Do you see a monk or Shifu? Maybe you may say both. Yeah. So if you can see a monk, you already have a monk in your mind. Before you open your eyes, you must have a monk in your mind. Then when you open, and what is outside matches with the little monk in your mind, If it match close enough, then you say, ah, this is a monk. Right? This is the process of cognition. Right? Correct or not? And that's why if, let's say, Shifu's hair become, if I never shave my hair, become longer and longer and longer until like Michael Jackson hairstyle, will you still think that Shifu is a monk? Oh, thunder. Which of you say no? if that is true, that if my hair grow too long, then this is not a monk, then there are a lot of cultivators, they are no longer monks. Because a lot of the cultivators, when they are in deep retreat, they don't spend time to groom themselves. So you see a lot of the masters, when they finish their retreat, their hair is super long, their beard, they are unshaven, everything. And only after they end their retreat, then they shave. Then you see, wow, super tongue. Actually, it's because, you know, when you don't shave for a long time, when you shave, it looks very bright. But even as now, whatever you see depends not just on the monk idea you already have. The monk idea, where did it come from? Maybe when we are young, for some of us, is when we are young, and when our parents bring us to the temple and then tell us, kneel down, kneel down. Then as a small kid, you're like, oh. Then your parents push you down on the floor, and then say, bow down, bow down. Then your parents push your head down onto the floor. And then after that, when you're done, your face in the dirt come up. Then your mom say, call Shifu. Then you, Shifu. One time, next time, again, you forgot. Then your mom again, bow down. Do this a few more times, then you remember, oh, Shifu. But if you are exposed to the idea of Shifu in this way, the next time you see Shifu, you run away. Because you have associated this image of a monk with being pushed onto the floor, kneel down on the floor by force, you know. So everybody's experience of a monk or a nun is different. Yeah, maybe you go to a temple, the first time you go there, you get scolded by the nun, or you get scolded by the monk. So your impression of monk or nun is, wow, very fierce. First time you step in, wow, kena scolded. Then from then on, the next time you see a monk, the next time you see a nun, the monk and nun have not said anything, but you already have that scolding experience coming up. Isn't it? True or not? Yeah. So we say, all that, whatever you perceive, depends on a lot of conditions to come about. Yeah. And at the same time, because they depend on all these conditions, is it substantial or not? Also not substantial. Yeah, not substantial. But yet, we act on it as though it's substantial. And that's half the problem. Yeah, half the problem. The next one, mental formation. Yeah, mental formation. Mental formation is a very, very special aggregation. Yeah. It is like it's like the placeholder, it is the one-size-fits-all part of the mind. Basically, anything that is not feelings, not perception, not consciousness, is basically lumped into mental formation. Can be lumped into mental formation. Yeah. Because mental formation itself is a very umbrella term for any other mental constructs. Yeah. But within this category, there is a very special one called volition. Volition. Volition means intent. Yeah. That means you have the intent to do something. So this particular type of mental formation is very special because this is responsible for karma. When you do so-called good karma, bad karma, it is responsible for it. But even this also depends on conditions to happen. Even though on a day-to-day basis, it feels like, oh, no what, Shifu, I make the decision. Yeah, we have the perception that it is I who make the decision. So how do we know whether it is true or not? So this is where at a certain point, you need to bring in the Buddhist practices, such as the practice of the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, which then includes mindfulness and concentration. Then you train your mind to be able to be aware of the different mental processes that take place. And if you are to observe it closely, then you will realize that we are not saying that there's no intent, but we are saying if you observe closely, what gives rise to the intent? You'll find that I shouldn't tell you the answer. Let me ask you, okay, let me ask you. When you are meditating, okay, when you are meditating, and then at some point, let's assume that at some point your leg is painful, okay, and after that you decide to move, right? So conventionally we say you decide to move, but when you really examine the mental processes, what do you see? You see the arising of pain, and then from the pain, in response to the pain, then the urge, the intent to move just spontaneously arise in response to that. There's no need for another separate I to come and decide, pain, let me move. Yeah. But don't take my word for it. You're going to observe yourself when you meditate. Yeah. But conventionally, we tend to think, I this, I that. Let me ask you all again. Earlier on, when there was the lightning and thunder, right? Did you all hear it just now? So all of you heard it, huh? Let's assume all of you heard it. For those who have heard it, if I ask you who heard it, of course you will say, I heard it. So which I heard it? Is it Li Hui, the daughter who heard it? Is it Li Hui? Where is the Li Hui? Where is the Li Hui found? Is it Li Hui, the student who heard it? Is it Li Hui, the niece that heard it? Which type of Li Hui heard it? Which part of Li Hui heard it? Which one? Huh? The what? The ears heard it. So just the ear itself can hear it. So what about the mind? Ear, sense of the object sound, then give rise to what? Ear consciousness. So ear consciousness heard the sound. Then? Huh? The what is unknown? The what? Who label it? What label it? Basically, mind consciousness label it. Correct? Yeah. So, mind consciousness label the sound as thunder. But before the label come in, it's just ear consciousness having awareness of the sound. So do we say that the ear consciousness is you? Let's say we say, hey, but we say she heard it, right? And since when we break down the mental processes is the ear consciousness, then we should just say ear consciousness is Li Hui. Li Hui is ear consciousness. Let's assume, or you don't agree? Do you agree or not? Huh? Li Hui is not just ear consciousness. Li Hui is more than that. So now, moments later, now, it's a few minutes already. So what happened to that particular ear consciousness? Is it still around? So that ear consciousness has ceased to exist. So a part of Li Hui has died. If we say that that is Li Hui, then the present collection is it the same as the previous collection where there was that year consciousness arising? Since that has disappeared, then that Li Hui just now and now is different. So if this is Li Hui, then that cannot be Li Hui. And if that is Li Hui, this cannot be Li Hui. So which is Li Hui? Can you understand? Can you understand? I see a lot of blank faces on the Zoom. Oh, you all cannot see their face. Can you understand or not? Never mind, slowly, okay, slowly. So if we were to, this part we can talk about it non-stop. But the description, explanation is to help you all to have an appreciation of it. But more directly, you need to meditate. But if you meditate without teachings, then you may draw the wrong conclusion also. You may actually draw the conclusion that, everything is impermanent, everything is no self, everything is empty, but the awareness is not. You may draw the wrong conclusion also. Yeah, so this part requires the teachings and the practice of meditation to link them up. Okay? So, form, feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. So collectively, these 5, we cover that. Yeah? We can go on and on. 5 aggregates we can talk about for the rest of our life, and we still haven't finished. But we cannot do that. Okay, so this is, in brief, give you an idea. And all this individually depends on other conditions, yeah, as I've illustrated. And so, each of these 5 aggregates are dependent on conditions to arise. And the conditions itself doesn't have any inherent characteristics of the resultant aggregates. So the resultant aggregates are also empty in nature. Yeah, so in summary, the 5 aggregates are dependent arising, empty in nature. I'm going a bit into the main text already, but I'm just using this first sentence to illustrate that. So for Kuan Yin Pusa and those high-level cultivator, when they read this line, they know what it means without going to the main text. Yeah? They immediately know, to eliminate, to see directly, observe the 5 aggregates to be empty in nature. They know what it means. Yeah. For a start, you just know that if a person can reach this point, then it means that he's able to see clearly that whether it's the bodily or mental constructs, the mind or the body is concerned, is all dependent on conditions, empty in nature. And since it's empty in nature, it's insubstantial, it's transient, it's not permanent. It is not that it is permanent and we cycle ourselves to just ignore it. Yeah, it is not that we have to force ourselves to think of it in a certain way, but rather it is that it is simply the way it is. Here I want to bring up another point, which is letting go. Have you heard of this teaching called letting go? Right? Almost all the Buddhist teachers always talk about let go, right? Yes? Have you all let go? Yeah. Yes, you all have let go. You let go of your Saturday to come and attend this class. But Shifu must tell you, don't let go. Those of you who have tried to let go, does it work? Does it work? No. If it's so easy, nobody will be coming for Dharma classes already, right? If it's so easy, all the temple, everybody, all floating around, all enlightened. Yeah. It's not so easy. And why? Let me tell you. Those who are, wait, hang on. I let go until my pen also let go already. Oh, here. So let me write down something for you. let go? No. Why? Why does Sifu say don't let go? So let's consider. So unenlightened being and enlightened. Unenlightened being try to let go but cannot let go. Why? Because we don't see that all things are empty in nature. We don't see. We don't see the truth. We see things as substantial. We see it as real, as substantial, as something that you can really hold on to. We see things this way. And not just things, we see people this way. We see everything in this way. And because we truly feel that it's like that, so how to let go? We attend one Dhamma talk, tell us to let go, we let go for 1 day. After 1 day, our heart itchy, yeah, our heart ache, yeah, our heart long for that thing because we are not convinced that it is not real. We feel that it is very substantial, very real. There's really something that we can gain, we can obtain, that we can achieve. So not convinced, and that's why we try to let go but cannot let go. How about enlightened beings? Enlightened beings also don't let go. Why? Because they see the truth. They see the truth and they see that it is insubstantial. It is empty in nature, it's impermanent, it's transient. They truly see that it is not that there's something substantial and you must let go of it, but they see that there's nothing that you can actually hold on to. And that's why they stop holding on to. And because they don't hold on to, they don't have to let go as well. It's just like now, if I ask you to think about your favorite toy when you were young, or favorite game that you played when you were young, okay? At this point, this morning when you wake up, did you play with that toy? Did you play that game? If you do, you need to see me after this. You may need counseling. Some of you smiling. Huh? Let me ask you. You didn't play with the toy. You didn't even you probably didn't even think about it, right? Did you have to make an effort to not think of it? Do you have to put in the effort to so-called let go of it? Have to or not? Don't have to. But when you were a kid, the first thing when you wake up, you think about your toy. Huh? For most kids, I don't know about you, but for me it was like that. The moment I wake up, oh, where's my toy? Yeah. Next thing I think is, what is for breakfast? Haven't brushed my teeth. What is for breakfast? Yeah. So enlightened beings, we are somewhat similar to enlightened beings. Enlightened beings simply see clearly everything. With the way they relate to all things in this world is different from us because they truly see that there's nothing inherent, substantial, or permanent about this world. So it is not that there's something substantial that you can grasp onto, and then they train themselves not to grasp onto. No. It's that they see that There's nothing tangible to grasp onto. And that's why they stop grasping, and that's why for them, there's no letting go as well. So in this world, nobody ever let go. Those who let go, after a short while, they hope get it back again. Because true so-called letting go is not letting go. And what has that got to do with what we are learning? 照见五蕴皆空，度一切苦厄. When the Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, the enlightened ones, they truly see that the five aggregates is empty in nature, they stop grasping onto it. And when they stop grasping onto it, all levels of grasping in terms of attachment to the self, grasping in terms of attachment to phenomena as substantial, grasping in terms of all this as mind, all these forms of attachment is removed. And because all this fundamental grasping is removed, then the subsequent what? Subsequent defilements don't arise. And when the subsequent defilements stop arising, then the subsequent sufferings cease altogether. And the whole cyclical existence that's driven by greed, hatred, and delusion come to an end. And that's how 度一切苦厄, that they are able to put an end to all suffering. Liberate all suffering. So my teacher explained, Ku is the suffering, is the problem arising from the suffering. You can say, is the suffering arising from the suffering. So how many types of suffering? Then we go through, there are 8 kinds of suffering. Birth, aging, sickness, and death. Now you all can write down. Birth, aging, sickness, and death. Contact with unpleasant ones, separation from loved ones. Not getting what one wants. Is suffering. In brief, the 5 clinging aggregates is suffering. So if you count all of them, there are a total of 8. But when you look at the original text, we usually say the 8 suffering. But if you look at the original text, it seems more like the first 6 is what the Buddha was describing. And then number 7. So the first 6, let me repeat. Birth, aging, sickness, and death. Then contact with unpleasant ones, separation from loved ones. So these are the first 6. And number 7, not getting what one wants. So this can be describing the first 6. It can also describe more specifically a particular category of cultivators in the Buddha's time where they seek non-existence. They seek non-existence by waiting for their life to come to an end because they are nihilistic, materialistic. So those who have who subscribe to materialism, that means Chinese called 唯物主义. That means they think only the physical body exists. After I die, that's it. There's no future. That you only have one life. So in the Buddha's time, there were such people also. YOLO is not a new thing. Yeah, nowadays young people, YOLO. Yeah, you only live once. In the Buddha's time, there were a lot of YOLO already. Yeah. So when I hear this, I was thinking, all of you all the ascetic from that time until now still not awakened. Continue this mindset. Yeah, you are in for a surprise. Because the Buddha used this category to describe them, that they seek non-existence. But then because they were also cultivators, when they die, they get reborn in some heavenly state. Then, well, how come I'm born again? So they don't get what they wish for. Yeah. It's described the first 6, it can describe this particular category. Then number 8, if you look at the Sutra, number 8 is actually summarizing the first 7. Yeah, because it's described in brief, the 5 clinging aggregates is suffering. Over the years, I keep coming back to this stanza, the 5 clinging aggregates is suffering. I had a discussion with another nun, another Dharma sister last time, and I was like, why do we say that the aggregates is suffering? When the Buddha was alive, there's also form, feelings, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. But we don't say he suffered. So then, in that case, the 5 aggregates itself is not a problem. Agree? So she was like, oh, that's an interesting angle. So of late, I thought maybe another angle is the term 无蕴炽盛苦 or 无取蕴苦. The 5 clinging aggregates is suffering. Maybe another way to look at it is clinging on to the 5 aggregates is suffering. Yeah, another way to look at it. And so for the Buddha and the Arahants, the enlightened Bodhisattvas, because they no longer cling on to the 5 aggregates, so they don't suffer because of the 5 aggregates. Make sense? Yeah. Because otherwise, after the Buddha attained enlightenment, there was still the physical body. The difference between the Buddha and us, the Arahants and us, is they no longer identify with the 5 aggregates as them. They are not attached to it. They don't cling on to it. So they don't suffer over it. So if you have kids, you don't cling on to them, they feel their problem. Correct. If the next year's all the exam results decline, I take full responsibility. You think about it. Everything that we suffer over is something that we have identified with, and we feel that it matters to us. But the moment there's a change in mindset, it doesn't affect us anymore. Now, does it mean that we should not care about anything? This is the tricky part. Long time ago, when I was speaking at NUS, at the end of the talk, one of the students came forward and asked. She said that she agreed with the teachings, and she feels that the teachings is very meaningful. It makes a lot of sense not to be attached. Then she said, but she still has her family, she still has her boyfriend. But she wants to care for them. How to care for them without being attached? Does it mean that to not be attached, then you don't care about them? But she still wants to care for them. So I told them, I said, this is a very good point. For most of us, caring for someone usually comes with attachment. And when we don't care, usually it means we're not attached to that person. Or we are not attached to the person, so we don't care. None of my business. Yeah. Either way is easy to do. Easy to care and be attached. Easy to not care and not be attached. The tough thing is to care without attachment. Care without attachment. So this is what is difficult. And this is what the Buddha, the enlightened Bodhisattvas, the Arahant, does and advocates. But this kind of caring requires us to have the wisdom. The wisdom that whatever we are attached to is actually also not what is outside, you know. We are attached to our idea of that person. You think about it, we are attached to ourselves actually. Our perception of how that person is, who that person is, we are attached to that. And we hold that perception as the real person. But no matter how you think, the aggregates outside, the person outside will change and, you know, go the way it goes, you know, according to conditions, not according to your static image. And that's why our attachment brings about suffering. Because we hold on to this and then the two have differences and then we have conflict. And we cannot accept that why the person is different. The trouble is we never update our image, you know. And the worst thing is sometimes our attachment is purely our own imagination of how the person is. Lagi best. It's not even a snapshot of that person. It's what we hope that person is, you know. So when we say remove the attachment or so-called let go of attachment, don't try to let go of attachment. Go and really observe and understand what you are attached to. When you truly see, maybe I shouldn't say truly see, because truly see enlightenment, then I don't know how long you're going to take, maybe 10,000 lives, then from now until 10,000 lives, suffer. Halfway through, you give up already. I would say, even if you haven't fully see, but if you were to just take a step back and examine, maybe use the exercise we have over here to go and examine what you are attached to. It may give you a new view, a new look at the circumstances, at the person, the object, or the thing, or whatever that you are attached to. You may have a better appreciation of what is really happening. And with that, you would quite naturally relate to it differently. And to the extent that the way you relate is in line with how it really is, to the extent your expectations, your the way you interact would lead to lesser conflict, lesser gap between your expectation and reality. Those who have reached a point where they can observe all phenomena is empty, has reached this point where they are able to fully see themselves, others, everything. And that's why 度一切苦厄. So the good news is, if we continue to learn this teaching, it should help us to have a clearer picture. It doesn't mean that we become aloof and don't care. Some students ever ask me, Shifu, does it mean that, we become uncaring? Because they have this misconception about caring versus attachment. They think that it must go hand in hand. Here I'm tell you again and again I will tell you, it's possible to care without attachment. The trouble is we're so used to the normal way. Attach, then you care. Don't attach, don't care. You don't want me to be attached to you, right? Okay, I don't care. Right? But it's possible. The good news is possible. The bad news is not so easy. So next.色粒子，色不异空，空不异色，色即是空，空即是色，受想行识亦复如是。So with the opening line, this sets the direction, the path, and the goal for us. Now further elaboration. 色粒子 So, in a way, it is this name that got the whole series of Heart Sutra started. As I mentioned before, there was this book that described this in a very complicated way. Yeah, that has nothing to do with what is being described in the sutra. And when the youth in Comic Sun, they show me the book that they are reading, and I look at it, I'm like, please throw this book away. And they're like, oh, Dharma book. I say, no, the meaning is wrong. And they're like, oh, then Shifu, maybe you can give us a class to teach us what is Heart Sutra. And because I was just newly back from US, 不知天高地厚. So I just readily, okay, can, right? And then they said, so maybe you do one talk. I said, okay, can. 2 hours. And usually if it's a 2-hour talk on Heart Sutra, it will just be an overview of what emptiness is. And then go into some illustration, maybe take a verse here and there. But do you know that in that first talk, 2-hour talk, I went through the whole Heart Sutra in 2 hours. So can you imagine how fast? So what is this 舍利子? As we know, this is Venerable Shariputra. So the name is 2 parts, 舍利 and 子. 舍利 is actually the name of a bird. In Chinese is 春莺. And the thing about this bird is the eyes is very beautiful. So what has it got to do with Venerable Shariputra? The name 舍利 is actually his mother's name. His mother, when born, was commented to have very beautiful eyes. So as a result, was given this name 舍利. Yeah. So 舍利子, or sometimes 舍利弗, yeah, or 舍利弗陀. So Sariputta. Yeah. Basically, 子 here is putra. You know the Malay word Bhumi Putra? Sifu, Buddha's time they use Malay. No, it is that the Malay language, Melayu, yeah, actually has Sanskrit roots. Yeah, it has Sanskrit roots. So a lot of the Malay words actually can be traced back to some kind of Sanskrit terms. In this case, Putra literally means son. So we have Sari Putra. In other words, 舍利的囝, you know, Sari's son. So his name actually is formed in this way. His original name is Upatissa. And this Venerable Shariputra, he is very special. Yeah. If you were to encounter Venerable Shariputra today, before he become ordained, you wouldn't think of him as a Buddhist, you know. Organized party for the whole group. Yeah, really, you go and read the great disciples of the Buddha. The 2 of them would organize big gathering. Yeah, I think if I don't recall wrongly, each of them would have 250 friends collectively. Then they will party together, you know. Yeah. The text, the commentary described that they would have a large gathering. They would invite troops to perform for them. Yeah. How many of you party with 200 over 500 friends? How many of you? Let's say after all the pandemic, do you all have a few hundred friends to have gathering? No, you think they go to temple, go no. So very atypical. What is remarkable about them is, in the commentary it says that on one occasion, when they organized this 3-day celebration, kind of like performance and so on. On the first day, they enjoyed themselves and they went back. Second day, again they enjoyed themselves. But after the second day, they start to have questions in their mind. But they separately went back home and separately have this thought. While these performers entertain us and give us much pleasure and joy, they themselves are still subject to aging, sickness, and death. Being subject to aging, sickness, and death, they are still subject to suffering. And being subject to suffering, how can the happiness they give us be of true happiness? This kind of person, no. Huh? How many of you, when you're watching movie, watch halfway, this is not true happiness. Huh? When your friends chill you go to pub, don't think I don't know. I'm sure you all go to pub, right? Do you all still call it pub nowadays? In my time, when my friends chill me there, we call it pub. Is it still called pub now? Don't KK, I know some of you, Marcel, go to pub now. No, really. Pub, right? Now it's still called pub, right? Yeah. But the rest of you don't go pub now. Never ever go. How many of you have never gone to pub before? Never. Raise your hand. Never. Raise your hand. How about online students? Those who have never gone to pubs before. For the old people, nightclubs. disco, nightclub. So in the end, the Sifu went to pub before. You all never go before. Huh? What's going on, man? I'm not so good like Venerable Sariputra and Venerable Mahamukkulana. But even for me, last time, I'm quite low standard one. But when I go to pub, I also don't find much anything so exciting about it, Yeah. Sometimes when I'm in the midst of very intense so-called entertainment, I will have a very strange sense of melancholy, and I will suddenly look at everybody like a very disconnected feeling. But for Venerable Sariputra and Venerable Mahamukkulana, they have such strong, wholesome roots that in the midst of entertainment, they are able to arise this reflection, to think that this entertainment is not true happiness, because it is coming from individuals who are still subject to suffering. As a result, they separately have this thought: tomorrow I shall relinquish all this and go and become an ascetic. They didn't text each other and discuss. They didn't WhatsApp call and then, hey, Mogalana, how? I was thinking, no, they didn't do that. But the next day, when they arrive, they are very good friends. So the moment they see each other, they immediately have a feeling they know what each other is thinking. And one of them said, I have something to tell you. And the other person, oh, I also have something to tell you. And so they both declared to each other what they have thought, and it's exactly the same thing. So then they thought, in that case, let's just go. So they turned around and told all their hundreds of friends, saying that, okay, well, everything is paid for, you all just continue to enjoy yourselves. We are going off to become monks. And you know what their friends said? Their few hundred friends all decided, without you all around, what joy is there? We shall go together. How many of you, when you come for Heart Sutra, and your friends chill you for mahjong, chill for high tea, low tea, whatever tea, and you tell them, oh no, I must attend Heart Sutra. And your friends say, oh, without you, what joy is there? I shall join you for Heart Sutra. Or they say, hey, don't like that, ma. Yeah, or they say, okay, never mind, next time join us. We continue. So these two good friends, they are very remarkable. They are influential in this way. Yeah, and so they all went and become ascetic, but they didn't immediately become Buddhist monks. And as they went looking for a teacher, they promised each other, whosoever find the truth shall inform the other, so that both can work towards enlightenment. So they went off and they found some teachers who taught them some things. And then one day, Venerable Sariputra encountered somebody. Yeah, Ma Sen Bichu. Yeah. So he encountered Venerable Asaji, who was going on alms round. And the thing about Venerable Asaji is his composure, his deportment, the way he carried himself as he go for alms round, alms bowl in his hand, he just walked in so serenely that it was awe-striking for Venerable Sariputra. And he thought, this ascetic, if he must have seen the truth, or if not, he must be, close to it, or his teacher must have seen the truth. So he decided to consult him, whether what his teacher what he teaches. But he thought, this ascetic, he is going on alms. Now is not the time. So he followed him until he finished his alms round, finished his meal. Then he consulted him. And after the pleasantries are exchanged, then he asked, who is your teacher? What does your teacher teach? So then Venerable Asaji told him, I'm newly ordained. He first declared that my teacher is the ascetic Gautama, the Buddha, and but I am newly ordained. Yeah, at that point in time, if I don't recall wrongly, he was it's not been a year or so, so fairly new in that sense. But then he said, I can only tell you in brief. And Venerable Sariputra, according to the text, said, well, quick, tell me. And then the famous verse. I can only tell you in Mandarin. 此有故彼有，此无故彼无。我佛大沙门常作如是说。This is, in a way, the condensed version. There's one that is a bit longer. So, upon hearing this, Venerable Sariputra attained Sotapanna. Anyone attain Sotapanna? Anyone? Some of you didn't even catch what I said. So Venerable Sariputra, just hearing this verse, immediately attained Sotapanna, stream entry. And he said, this is enough. So he quickly requested to go and see his good friend, to tell him the good news. And when he reached and found Venerable Mahamoggallana, Venerable Mahamoggallana, upon seeing him, immediately, you look different today. Have you found the truth? Yes. Come, let me tell you. So he repeated, 此有故彼有，此无故彼无。我佛大沙门常作如是说。And Venerable Mahamoggallana likewise, Sotapanna. Hey, your second time already, no? Anyone? How about you? Some of you attend Sutra, don't know how many times. This is a joke that I first heard. When I first heard, I think it was Venerable Guangping. Yeah, during one of the retreat, then he mentioned this. It was so hilarious. Yeah, and for the past 10 of years, I've been saying this. So far, nobody enlightened. How is this possible? Through many aeons of practices, cultivation of the perfections, the paramita. Yeah. Things don't happen by chance. And it's not so much that, no, Sifu, because you're not like Venerable Asaji. If I meet Venerable Asaji and he say, I will attain Sotapanna. No, Yeah. My Sixiong ever told me, he said, one day we were returning from the town and then we were driving up. Then he said, 志行，以后嘛，你也会开始讲课。如果你讲课的时候呢，学生听得懂，你也不要太过这个自豪，因为呢，这个学生听得懂听不懂，也要靠他们的法缘。 不关你的事。但是如果学生听不懂的话，也不关你的事。他们法院匮乏。So my senior monk basically said that in future you will probably give teachings, and if the students can understand, don't be too proud. It is due to the presence of Dharma conditions that they have. But if they don't understand, also not your fault, because they don't have Dharma conditions. So you all can understand a lot. Cannot, not my problem. But Venerable Sariputra and Venerable Mahamoggallana, they have done their preparation. That's why we always say, don't wait for the right teacher. If you wait until there's a perfect teacher, you will never practice. Whatever you can learn from whoever you encounter, just learn. And when you learn and prepare yourself until you're ready, Buddha will appear. If you don't prepare, you wait until not Venerable, Maitreya Bodhisattva arrives in this world as Buddha. You don't prepare now, by the time he arrives, you're again one of those who go around, Buddha man, then you walk off. Then until a few thousand years later, then you wait for another monk to come, 来，我们来学习心经。Then again you like, really man? How come we cannot work? Don't wait. Don't have to envy Venerable Mahakashapa, Venerable Sariputra, Venerable Mahamoggallana. Don't have to envy. They are able to do this because of conditions. One conditions, many kalpa of cultivation. Don't have to feel disheartened also. They started some point. When they started, we were also around in samsara. The difference is they started when we didn't start. We start halfway, maybe it start. We start, then we give up. We start, then we give up. It's like someone trying to boil water. You burn a bit, then burn a bit, You know? You start the car, then okay, don't want already. Don't want already. And then never get the car started. Then get the car started, then sit down there idle, blow aircon, happy. Then people say, hey, go lah. Why? I happy, you happy? I don't want to go home. Then okay lor, he attain enlightenment, we are still down here. So don't have to be envious, don't have to be disheartened. So, haven't finished Venerable Sariputra's story. So Venerable Sariputra then, with Venerable Mahamoggallana, went to see the Buddha. But before they reached the Buddha assembled the monks and declared, the two chief disciples are arriving. Buddha steady. Before they arrived, he declared to the whole community, the two chief disciples are coming. So shortly, the two of them arrived. Yeah. Before they even do anything, the Buddha already declared, these are the two chief disciples. Then the Buddha admitted them into the Sangha, gave them the teachings, and they went separately to practice. 7 days later, Venerable Mahamoggallana attained Arahanthood first, and shortly after that, Venerable Sariputra attained Arahanthood also. Super high, fast track. Again, don't have to be envious. Start now. Start now. So, 舍利子，色不异空，空不异色，色即是空，空即是色，受想行识亦复如是。Yeah. So this is. Let me give you an overview first. So this segment here, this is one segment. This whole segment, the home participants, you all can see what I write, right? Okay. So this whole segment is basically the relationship between form and emptiness. Okay, what is the relationship? Please hold. Hold on first, okay? So this whole segment is describing relationship between form and emptiness. Then we pull ourselves out from the details and go to the next segment. 受想行识亦复如是. So if you consider form, and what is this? Feelings, perception, mental formations and consciousness. And by now, what is this? 5 aggregates, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You all see the pattern? Yeah? So what is it saying? It's saying, first of all, there's the relationship between the first aggregate form and emptiness. Then after that, it's saying, as far as feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness is concerned, 亦复如是. That the remaining 4 are the same. Loosely translated, not literal. Literal would be like they are similarly, further similar. 亦复如是. In a nutshell, the same applies to the next 4 aggregates. What does this mean? It means that we can then add in and say feelings, 受不异空，空不异受，受即是空，空即是受，想不异空，空不异想，想即是空，空即是想。Basically, the same format is applied across the 5 aggregates. Can get this big picture? Everybody okay? Can understand? How about the online? Everybody can understand this? Yeah. So when we recite the sutra, 度一切苦厄，舍利子，色不异空，空不异色，色即是空，空即是色，受想行识，亦复如是。Yeah. Then it makes more sense. And that's why when we recite, there are certain pauses that are crucial because it segregates the text into parts. Yeah. But if you just read, or sometimes you take a breath at the wrong place, then the meaning actually 跳掉啊. So with this overview, then we go into the specifics. So the first part, 色不异空，空不异色. This is the first stanza. So first of all,色, we already covered physical form. Yeah. Now, is physical form dependent arising? Yes. So far so good, Yeah. At least for now, let's assume that based on what we have observed, it is dependent arising. Yeah. So far so good. So then we can say that this form is dependent arising. I'm going to just short form DA. Dependent arising form. So 色不异空, 异 means differ or different. Form, dependent arising form is not different from its emptiness. Is this true? So when we went through the text, I actually covered it last week. I covered it first. So now when you look at this text, easier to understand. Yeah? Because last week we learned when something is dependent arising and you cannot find the nature within the conditions, then we say that it's empty in nature also. So when we go through all this, you see that the fact that it is empty in nature is precisely because it is dependent arising. The fact that it's dependent arising is also because it is empty in nature. And that's why dependent arising form is not different from emptiness. It's not different. And its emptiness, emptiness is not different from form. So the principle of emptiness or the emptiness of form is not different from the dependent arising form as well. So it's a two-way relationship. When we read this, we may sometimes wonder, isn't it enough to say the first part, Why do you still need to say the second part? So this is where, let me ask you, some relationships is one way, some relationships is two way. For example, when you see Mazda 323, is Mazda 323 a car? Yeah, it's a car. It's a car. Can we say that a car is Mazda 323? No. A car may not be Mazda 323, can be other model, can be other brand. Agree? So some relationships is one way. Can you think of a two-way relationship where A is B and B is A? You think it's easier? Actually quite easy. But suddenly, when I ask you suddenly, maybe not so easy. Can you think of a two-way relationship where A is B and B is A? How about online participants? Can you think of a relationship where A is B and B is A? Marcel? Okay. Let's consider. Let's not jump to conclusion. Let's analyze. The statement is water is H2O. H2O is water. How many of you think agrees with the statement? Oh, they support. Huh? You don't just support You all agree? How many of you disagree? Why do you disagree?
Like what H2 water is H2O, H2O cannot be doesn't really mean that it's water because like H2O is an element, water is a liquid. And then like ice, for example, which is like in the form of like water but it's like in the lower temperature.
Yes.
Which is also like H2O.
It's still H2O. Yeah. Okay, so for the online participants, I forgot your name. Vanessa, yes, Vanessa. So Vanessa mentioned, while water is H2O, H2O may not always be water because ice is also H2O, right? Is ice water? No, it's the solid form, right? We can go further and say water vapor is also H2O, but not water. Sorry, water vapor. Yeah, water vapor. Yeah, steam, for example, is also H2O, but it's not water. But it is a very, very close example. And I quite like this. When I first studied, I was like, this is good because it's tricky. The tricky examples are very useful because it helps us realize that there are a lot of subtle nuances inside. Would someone else like to try another example where A is B and B is A? How about the online participants? Anyone? And you all thought it was easy, right? Think. Dong, 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 dong. Yes, Hui Wen, come. Right?
Does heat is coldness?
No, I think you don't use that because you just use the mic. Coldness is the absence of heat. And then? What you are asserting is A is coldness is the absence of heat. So you are asserting A is not B, and then B is not A. Yeah, you're not asserting A is B, B is A. It's very close. You try again. You just have to rephrase the second line to fit into this model. Huh? And then? Non-heat is what? Sure or not? Huh? Come on, have more confidence. Okay, so what Hui Wen is saying is, oh, hang on, I didn't plug in the power. So Hui Wen is asserting coldness is the absence of heat, and absence of heat is coldness. Is it always true? Is it true? Any of you agree? Jing Zhen don't agree. Why?
Absence of heat can be just room temperature. It doesn't mean it.
So absence of heat can just be room temperature as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is room temperature cold? Not necessarily. This statement is a bit tricky to assert, yeah, by virtue of, you must listen, we're all discussing what you're saying. So because cold itself is a perception, is an experience. There are a lot of experiments pertaining to this that illustrate how our perception of even heat and cold, hot and cold, is flawed. Yeah, you know the experiment in I think primary or secondary school, 3 basins, right? The cold, hot, and room temperature basin. Have you all tried before? Hey, you all never go to school, what school you all go to? Next week prepare three container. Okay, can or not? Those who never tried before can try before class. Okay, one with ice, one with warm water. Don't put hot water. Hot water, Sifu say must strike, then you burn yourself. So if you put your hands into the cold and the hot for maybe about 1 minute, then you put into the room temperature basin, then you'll find that your 2 hands feel the opposite. Your hand that is originally in the cold water now feels warm, and the hand that was in the warm water now feels cold, but it's in the same water. Yeah, our body is not a good measurement of heat. Yeah, because we detect the gradient, temperature loss or gain. We are not detecting absolute temperature. Oh, good attempt. Yeah, give the 2 of them a round of applause. Yeah, so we give you all this exercise. Go back and find something that is two-way. That means A is B, B is A. But you can also see how, because it's so non-trivial, so this assertion is even more important. To assert that when something is dependent arising, it is empty. When something is empty in nature, it is precisely because it's dependent arising. In this case, it is a two-way relationship. Yeah. Now the second stanza, 色即是空，空即是色, then further asserts that it is not simply that they are not different. In fact, they are the same thing. The dependent arisingness, or the fact that form is dependent arising, is precisely because it's empty in nature. But when we learn the teachings, it is often taught in segmented format. Why? Easier. Easier for us to learn, easier for us to understand. But it's actually talking about one principle. Yeah? So it's not two separate principles. And hence, form is emptiness. Yeah? The full thing is, dependent arising form is emptiness, or is empty in nature. And the emptiness of form is dependent arising form. The two are not separate things, it's the same thing. And then if you take this expanded format and you plug in the four other aggregates as variables, then the same applies for feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Yeah? Beautiful. Buddhism is more akin to maths and science than to arts. Yeah. Yeah. At the core is all about principles. So, 舍利子是做法空. Then after that, the following verse, I will cover the following week. After this will be 舍利子是诸法空相，不生不灭，不垢不净，不增不减. While I will cover next week, I want you all to outline it first. Okay? So again, 舍利子是诸法空相。So here, a new term, 诸法, all phenomena. The word 法 itself has three meanings. The first meaning is referring to all phenomena. The second meaning is the principle that defines and supports all these phenomena. The third meaning is that among all these principles, there's a set of principles from which wholesomeness arises. And that third meaning is what we call Buddha Dhamma. Here, 诸法, 诸 literally all phenomena. The word 法 here refers to phenomena. So if you consider, the earlier section has so far only talked about 5 aggregates. But now suddenly we talk about all phenomena. From 5 aggregates to all phenomena seems like a jump. And just now I mentioned the sutta called Sabba Sutta. Right? The all. So I want you all to go and look for it. I've actually listed in the notes, but please go and find it. You can find it in Access to Insight.org. The 5 aggregates actually encompass all phenomena. Remember the previous weeks, we go through the experiment of switching off the eye, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. Can remember? Yeah. As we switch off all the different parts, doesn't that cover the 5 aggregates? And so by extension, without the 5 aggregates, can you talk about anything in this world? Cannot. And with the 5 aggregates, in other words, it actually encompasses all phenomena. The first phenomena, the first one, form aggregate, basically cover internal, external, physical form, which basically cover all physical things. The next 4 cover all mental constructs. Together, it includes all phenomena. And so from the earlier section, 受想行识亦复如是, it basically covers that all phenomena, in other words, is dependent arising and empty in nature. And hence, then the next section would make sense. Yeah. 是诸法空相. That all phenomena being empty in nature, so what is the feature of it? And what is its feature? 不生不灭不垢不净不增不减. So this is 3 sets here. The first set, the second set, and the third set. So I want you to just mark it out. I'll explain in the following week. Oh, have you all marked? Can you see this? Mark out. And after you have marked out, are you all done? Finished? Now, then, if you can follow me through the Sutta. 不生不灭不垢不净不增不减是故空中. So from this part, then there's the 是故空中. I'm not showing, I'm just reading it out. You must find in the Sutra. Okay? 是故空中. And to do the marking, right, I want you to refer to the front page where there's the whole Sutra. Okay? There's a whole Sutra right at the front. So that way you can look at the whole Sutra and mark it out to have an overview. Look for the part, look for this stanza here. 不增不减. Got it? Can find? If you can find, raise your hand. If you cannot find, raise your hand. If you cannot find and you don't raise your hand, knock your head on the table. You, Tuya, can find or not? Cannot find, what did I say? Those who cannot find, raise your hand. Those who cannot find, raise your hand. Can you understand me? Hey, hello, hello. Tuya. Can you understand me? Huh? Sorry? Yeah, I'm asking you all, though, can you find? Oh, but you found. Tuya, I'm going to be highlighting the words that you need to mark out. If you cannot find, I will go there and point out for you. If you don't want to raise your hand, I don't know whether you know or not, but I know you don't know. Because Chinese words, how to know? But I need you to raise your hand. You cannot be stubborn, don't want to raise your hand. I repeat my question again. Those who cannot find, raise your hand. Tuya. Yes, just raise your hand. What's so difficult about raising your hand? Why you shake your head? Huh? Tuya, look at me. I'm doing this to everybody, not you in particular. I have nothing against you, okay? This is the first time I see you, correct? And I'm highlighting this because I know that you will have difficulty finding the text. I want to make sure you can catch up. But I need you to also be ready to raise your hand. And understand or not? Ayo, you want to learn Dharma, you cannot be, so embarrassing. What? Okay, for the rest, can you all find the text? Can, So, 是诸法空相，不生不灭，不垢不净，不增不减，是故空中. So after 是故空中, the 中, let me write it down for you. So after this, then you start to mark out. 是故空中无色, yeah, you put a bracket around it. 无色, you put a bracket around it, and then put 1. So you put a bracket around it, and then you put 1 here. And after that, 无色无受想行识，无眼耳鼻舌身意，无色声香味触法，无眼界乃至无意识界。Come on. Huh?
I have the PDF. You want me to send?
No, now it's too late to do this. 无意识界。Okay, can you all find the ending? Yeah, I'm showing on the screen. So from 无色无受想行识，无眼耳鼻舌身意，无色声香味触法，无眼界乃至无意识界。Over here, you close it up. Okay, so the start until the end, this whole thing is under segment 1. Okay, from here, after that will be 无明亦无明尽，乃至无老死亦无老死尽，无苦集灭道。So 无明亦无明尽。Again, over here you write part 2. The flooring is tile. Leave the water alone. Now is not the time to clean up. Do the cleanup later. Must focus what is important. Okay, so over here, immediately after the 戒, mark part 2. Okay, from part 2, 无明亦无明尽，乃至无老死亦无老死尽，无苦集灭道。Okay, up to the 无苦集灭道。Then 无智亦无得。So this part, oh come on. So this part 3, 无智亦无得。Okay, so this is part 3. Everybody got it? Oh, okay. So the 3 stanza actually correspond to these 3 groups of text. All right. So we will continue next week. Another exercise for you all to do. Are you all ready? Today's exercise is for you all to find something that is not empty in nature. Don't just write down the thing. You must explain why you think it is not empty in nature. Anybody have questions on this exercise? Huh? I'll give you examples some more. I can't give you example. But you understand the question? That means you find something that don't need conditions. It's inherent, exists by itself. So if you manage to find something, you write it down, you take a picture, you send it to the Telegram. And then we will go through it. And if we succeed in finding, then we can call for I think it's the 7th Worldwide Sangha Council. We will convene the Sangha Council, invite all the senior monks to come to Singapore, and they will announce to them, most esteemed Mahathera Sangha of the 10 directions, we have found in our latest Heart Sutra class, one of our students found something that is inherent, thereby violating the first principles of emptiness that the Buddha has discovered and expounded. We like to seek your kindness and compassion to review and to cross-examine and make sure that this is true. And if it's true, then we all have to go back home. But we have to make sure, don't convene everybody then later, oops, oh, sorry, we forgot this part. Okay, Ken, any questions? If not, huh? Who? Someone asked a question in the chat. Hang on, where's my mouse? So, Lai Chuan asked a question. Why monk need to shave? Lay. Yeah, why monk need to shave lay? Where is Lai Chuan? Lai Chuan. Hey, Lai Chuan. Oh, you're the one hiding behind the table. Yeah, lah. Put your computer in front of the thing, lah. Let us see your face. Why you hide behind the table?
No, like that I cannot write in my iPad.
Huh?
My table is very small.
Then put on the floor, lah.
Huh?
Okay, never mind. Why do monks need to shave? Lay. Why? Well, for one, this was the practice in the Buddha's time. From what I know, the Buddha first cut off his hair as a sign of him relinquishing his worldly status. Yeah, there's also some that say that it was in the context of the practice back then. There's the Brahmanic religion, where they treat the body, the hair, as very precious. So by cutting off their hair, it is like basically saying, I'm not a part of this anymore. Something like that. But not all ascetics shave their hair clean. So there's also other reasonings that was mentioned in class, and that part of it is actually for practical reasons. That by shaving their hair, they maintain simple hygiene. You don't have to keep taking care of it. But even more importantly, the practice is to what we call 破相, literally break the feature. So even until today, for most people, having your hair is a very important part of your appearance. Yeah. Imagine tonight, Shifu sneak into your room. The next morning you wake up. Oh, nothing left. Huh? I think for most people it will be a shock. So, but we may say, what's the purpose of that? It is a very direct eroding of our attachment to our physical body and appearance. In other words, our ego. But still, I must highlight something else about shaving our hair. You will notice that for many monks or nuns, we often see our hair at different length. Yeah, oftentimes. But if lay people shave their hair, have a shaven look, then their hair is almost always in a certain length, either completely shaven or a certain length, and they maintain that length. Yeah. And why? Because lay people still have to maintain the form. Whereas for us, We shave once every about 10 days to 2 weeks. Yeah. So the length is varied. Yeah. So not about maintaining a certain look. Yeah, but to erode, yeah, to remove that attachment and clinging to our appearance. So sometimes some students are like, how come you never shave? Like, oh, when I shave here, I shave here. I shave together. Yeah. Whereas in the past, like when I was a lay person, every morning I will wash my face, then I will shave. You know? Yeah. Here don't shave, here shave. Yeah. So always maintaining. Yeah. Or some people they maintain a goatee. So some people when they see, oh, Sifu also maintain goatee. Then no, it's just that now older, so it grow faster. Yeah, and sometimes lazy, or sometimes never shave. And when do I shave? When it's very itchy. Yeah, very grimy, very itchy. Then okay, time to shave. Shave. So this is why. Sherry, thanks for the teaching. What does the conditions depend on? How do conditions arise? Now, I will give you the answer, but I want you to go and reflect and go and observe as well. What do the conditions depend on? They in turn depend on other conditions. Yeah, they in turn depend on other conditions. They depend on other conditions to arise as well. So the conditions are also dependent arising anti in nature. So Lai Chuan say, if cannot find how, I suppose this is with reference to the exercise to find something that is not inherent. If you cannot find, you must write down, cannot find, take a photo, send also. Okay? I suspect this will be the fastest exercise. Everybody, Monday, Tuesday, immediately cannot find. Maybe later on, halfway through, taking the lift down, cannot find. Oh, so simple. This exercise is very easy. Xiaofang asked, hi Shifu, I didn't catch the point. Ku is the suffering and is. So according to my teacher, Ku is the suffering and is the suffering arising from it. Yeah. Oh. Xiaofang, where's Xiaofang? Xiaofang, okay, got it? Yeah. So any other questions? Everybody good? Can? Put the palms together. 愿消三障诸烦恼，愿得智慧真明了，不愿罪障悉消除，世世常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。Again, I must highlight there are many ways to teach. If you go to the university, the lecturer will go through the lecture notes. The good ones would ask you questions, go through the notes, go through the slides, explain, and then ask you questions. But there are also lecturers who just teach, okay, finish, okay, go off. Then it's up to the tutor to come and ask you questions. None of my business. You understand, don't understand. And then even for the tutor, a good tutor will make sure every student get asked. Because their job is to question you, to get you to think, to teach you how to think. But university is so big, I mean, a good number of us have attended university. You know that not all tutors are the same. Some tutors also go through motion. Then you happy, I also happy. Then I don't give you pressure, you also don't give me bad rating, right? But I'm not in a university, I'm not a lecturer, I'm a monk. So when we teach, why is it that Sifu go through a trouble to question you all? It's not to embarrass you. Why is it that I have to do this? Because I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time to waste your time. Yeah, easy, very easy for me to just go through, then okay, go back. For give your exercise. I give your exercise, I have to read through, no. I may not so-called mark, but I also have to spend time to read through, right? easier for me to just give a talk. Then okay, any question? Then you ask lor. And as we know, we cannot ask what you don't know. Then okay lor. Then tell a few jokes here and there. Then really 感觉良好, feel very good. Then okay, bye bye. Then very quick, 10 minutes over, take a photo. But at the end of the day, maybe you still have questions. Maybe there are things you don't understand. Or maybe you think you understand, but then do you know how that affects your life? Maybe don't know, maybe don't know. Yeah. So I don't teach in that way. Okay, 来，起立。